Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
I am so excited to speak with you because you and I have some history together in a way.
do. Yeah.
You and I were both former Disney princesses, which is very fun. It's actually lovely because that's such a commonality that you and I have that's very precious, and not a lot of people can say that or really have that full understanding of everything we did in a career like that, or a job like that.
Yeah. A very unique situation. And it's like we were kind of in the foxhole together,
It's true.
going through, those ups and downs.
Yeah. Even today in getting ready for this, like I told you, I was like, oh, this morning I'm running a little bit late because we don't get to wear wigs for this. We have to do our real hair.
Right.
But it's just a funny thing that you and I understand and have in common. And it was such a special time for me. I know it was for you too.
Yeah. Really.
But I love that life has, you and I were not at the parks at the same time.
Right.
And it's been lovely that we're both now living in the same town, raising babies the same age, have a lot in common. And, as I'm on this quest for elevating and pushing forward and talking about women of character and interviewing women of character and becoming a woman of character myself, you really exemplify that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That makes me emotional to say. But what I have identified as a woman of character is someone who really puts a lot of time, effort, and energy into 5 pillars.
Okay.
And that is relationships, faith, self, health and fitness, wealth, and finance. And the foundation underneath all of that is emotional regulation, which a lot of people don't realize. 1, what that is, 2, how to do it, 3, that they probably don't do a good job doing that themselves or for their families. So that is the foundation, emotional regulation. And I love teaching that through storytelling. And again, you really get that piece because as characters, as performers, we really learned this amazing art of how to effectively storytell. And I even was making a video this morning for my social media talking about I'm a professional storyteller, and what you don't know to, people listening, what you don't know is you are too. So you have to pay attention to it.
Yes.
But one reason that I brought you in also is because I will tell you, or I will let you tell what you do professionally now, but it really plays a part into those 5 pillars I talked about. So if you will tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now, and we'll just dive into it.
Yeah. So like you said, I was a music major in college, got that vocal music degree, and, was told by a lot of people, you can't make money performing. So you have to get that teaching endorsement. And I was a good student. I did that, but wanted to perform. So moved, I grew up in Arkansas, went to school in Arkansas, moved 18 hours away from anyone I knew, and moved down to Disney after I graduated and started performing. And it was really the adventure of a lifetime, in every sense of the word, being on my own. But I had always been raised to be pretty independent. And so I wasn't afraid. It was really an adventure, and made some amazing memories, really made some amazing friendships that last, even to this day. Met my husband when I was down there. And what I'm doing now, how I got into that was once we did get married, and we moved up to Georgia for his job. And I tell people they don't pay you to be a princess in Georgia.
No, they don't.
So that's when I fell back on that teaching degree, right? And I was teaching in an elementary school, and we started doing the whole, how do we put our finances together game? Because that's so important in marriage. And, I had student loans, credit card debt, all of these things. He had truck payments and student loans, and trying to figure out the money piece of our relationship proved to kind of be difficult because everywhere we went that we thought was like a financial, a place where they would teach you about money and help you.
Right.
They really just wanted to sell us something.
Yes.
And we got the feeling, we were just...
Interesting.
Yeah. People just wanted to make a buck. They just wanted to push some product. Nobody really wanted to help us find a solution.
Right.
And so we were chatting with somebody at church one day, and we were probably complaining about money because people do it pretty often. We just don't hear it.
Yep.
And he had his antenna up and he said, I teach people about money. Why don't I come and teach you a few things? And that really spoke to my heart.
Wow.
As a teacher, I didn't want to be sold. I wanted to learn. And so, he and his wife came over to our house and they educated us, gave us a little Money 101 course, and put together a very comprehensive financial plan. And I didn't understand it. I was a music and performer person, didn't understand it, but I could follow, do this, do this, do this. Mm-hmm. And in 2 years, we had paid off over $30,000 in credit card debt. We had paid off our student loans. We had bought a house, started investing.
That's amazing.
Really adulted in a lot of ways. Yes. And when my car died, the month after we paid everything off, that was the turning point for me, because I thought, now we have to go back into debt. Like, we've worked so hard. Right. Now we have to go get another car. I was really upset. And my husband said, why don't we check that emergency fund that he had set up for us? Because we didn't know how to log into it. We just
left it.
We're putting money away, right? Out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely. Tuck it away.
And when we checked and there was enough to pay cash for another car, that changed everything.
Yes.
For our relationship, for our adoption that we wanted to start, for everything in our lives, our stress level.
Yeah.
You think about being bulletproof to the extent that you could pay cash for a car.
Yeah.
At 26, that happened when I was 26. So driving home from, the car lot in this car that I paid cash for, I called the man who had put together our financial plan. And I said, will you teach me what you did for us? Because it worked.
Wow.
And I don't necessarily understand how it worked.
Right.
But it did. And it changed our life. And I know so many people who need to feel this burden lifted. They're not bad people. Mm-mm. They're making bad choices because they've never been educated.
No.
They're just ignorant. And I want to provide that education.
Yeah.
And so that was 16 years ago.
That's amazing.
I started this journey of just trying to teach people about money and help them create a plan to reach their goals that is unintimidating, and encompasses almost every aspect of their finances, not just one thing, not just investing or just insurance or just debt, but all those things affect each other.
They do.
And it's important to have a comprehensive picture.
Yeah.
So that's what I do now professionally. Yeah. And I love it. I just have so much fun.
Mm-hmm. So. That's incredible, because I love when you learn something for yourself and it was so profound and life-changing that you then wanted to learn the skill to help others.
Yeah, exactly.
That's beautiful. That's what I've done here. And that's what you have to pay it forward. And you just saw such transformation. You wanted to gift that to other people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And like you said, we're taught so much in school. We're taught so much by the world. The world is noisy, and you need money to do anything you'd like in life. If you want to raise a family, if you want to buy a home, start investing, you have to have some understanding of money.
Right.
And it really helps to have a good, solid foundation of how it works.
Yes.
And what all of it means. And like you're saying, so many people can sell you on something, but I love what you said is you'd rather teach than sell. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to you. You were taught instead of sold.
Yes.
And now 100%. You're really
100%.
Sold because you fully understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the human aspect is missing a lot in the financial realm, because people think so much about numbers and commissions and, they're making themselves successful.
Right.
That they forget the human aspect of people just need help.
Yeah,
they need education. They need to understand. They don't necessarily need to just check a box and trust a professional. They need some buy-in.
Right.
So that they can not be taken advantage of, but also make the right moves logically and not emotionally.
Yeah.
Because money can be very emotional.
For sure.
And if we can't manage that, like you were talking earlier, then not only do we wreck our emotional health, but we also wreck our financial health.
It's true. I wrote that down, and we will definitely I want to talk about that next, but also just talking about the human aspect of money is lost. That's so interesting because, again, it goes back to the sold versus teaching aspect of things.
Yeah.
And again, I think even for, perhaps other people who might guide you in the financial world, it's really important. Like, people might have more to invest if you also teach them the principles, right? Because otherwise, what I believe that many people say it, but Dave Ramsey is really well known for this, that you have to know where your money's going. You have to be the one to tell it where to go.
Tell it where to go. Yes.
Exactly.
You don't wonder where it went.
No. I mean, goodness, it's same with our children, right? We don't, I wonder where my son or daughter went. Like, no. We know where they're going.
Exactly.
We know what they're dedicating their time to. Same with money. It's so important. We have to essentially teach it, train it, funnel it.
Yes. And it is a process.
Yes.
And it's an ongoing process, just like exercising.
Yeah,
You can't think one and done.
Yes.
You have to show up. And when I'm teaching people, I talk about how much time they spend planning a wedding.
Yes.
Or planning a birthday party.
Yes.
But how much time do they spend planning their finances?
Yes.
Planning for retirement, planning their budget. It's something that requires that oversight, and that continual discipline to keep it in check.
Absolutely. I've fallen in love with discipline because discipline creates the biggest results. I mean, without it, you can get lucky. Without it, you can still have some success, some happiness, but for really good, long-term, fulfilling results, you have to have that discipline piece. And that doesn't go like outside of the money realm.
Right.
And again, you can have money today, but what you love talking about too is building that generational wealth, right?
Yes.
It's not just meeting your financial needs today, monthly, etc. It's you and I have talked so much about this. I want to give more to my kids than I had. I want to pass down something when I leave, not only the cash, the assets, etc., but the knowledge.
Yes, because without that, the cash won't stay.
Yeah.
You hear about people winning the lottery.
Yes.
And within months or even just a few years, it's all gone.
Yes.
That's
and
wild. These professional athletes who amass amazing salaries, but continue to live a certain lifestyle where they're bankrupt.
Right.
ESPN even did a 30 for 30 on it. It was unbelievable how the lack of discipline in the financial realm and the lack of, I guess, wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking, like you're saying, generationally, I like to use the word legacy. Like, we want to leave behind a legacy. Even the Bible says that you will take care of your children's children. Yeah. And thinking long-term rather than what do I want now? Do I want, this thing or this experience that it's going to, really set us back financially.
Right.
But I want it.
Right.
Well, if we're thinking legacy, now we're thinking, what about them?
Yeah.
What about my children's children?
Absolutely.
What are they going to need in the future? Is this a way I can set them up to be bulletproof? If I take the no's today to give them yeses tomorrow.
Absolutely. Isn't that with everything?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's also with, I told my kids last night, can we have dessert? I'm like, puppies, we've had dessert the past 4 nights. So tonight it's a no. Yes, we have cookies here. Yes, we have some popsicles. They're even whole fruit popsicles, but the answer is no. Just with everything, that discipline, because again, having less sugar is going to provide you better health long-term. I tell my kids, I'm like, okay, if the more sugar we have, the slower we run. And it's just usually true. So same thing with money, and I love the legacy piece because, we're taught in society so much of, right. So self-care is a good thing. We have to really take care of ourselves, especially as moms, when we're constantly pouring out, dads too, right? Yeah. When we're constantly pouring out for our families, our jobs, trying to build this thing, this legacy. Yeah. We have to take care of ourselves, which is self-care, but so much of that has become treat yourself energy, which is just it's so nauseating to even say. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, there's a difference.
There's a huge difference.
Having the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? You're taking time for yourself. Right. But maybe not a $2,000 spa day kind of thing.
Right. On a regular basis. And not when you don't have the money.
That's something else I really try to explain. Yeah. You can do anything you want.
Absolutely.
If you budget for it.
Absolutely.
Like we did, I was telling you about our amazing summer trip this year.
Yes.
We took all the kids on this dream trip up to New York. We saw some baseball stadiums. We rode on the train. It was an incredible experience for them, in the sleeper car, just something they'll treasure forever. But we were only able to do it and pay cash for it because it was budgeted.
Absolutely.
It did not take away from anything we needed. We had set aside money every month for that purpose. And when we were ready to execute, it was there for us.
Absolutely.
And I think, we talk about women of character, and women of character are also generous. It's not just about us.
No.
And so I think another thing that gets lost is that generosity piece where we budget for generosity. Are you going to be prepared to be able to help when you're called upon?
Absolutely.
Because I think that's the greatest honor for someone to say, I need help. Or maybe there's a nonprofit or your place of worship that needs help.
It's true.
Are you able in that moment to be those hands and feet and help in a physical way?
Absolutely.
We can always send good thoughts and prayers, but how much more impactful is it when a check goes with it?
Yeah.
And to be prepared for that moment, to stand up and, really apply that in that situation. That's something I try to also say, budget for that.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to happen.
It is going to happen.
And you want to be the person that can say, yes, I can help.
Right. And the reverse of that is you don't want to be the person, at least I don't want to be the person who then becomes a burden to my family.
Right.
I want to provide for my kids.
Yeah.
And again, maybe today that is me saying, no, hey, no, we're not going to go on that, third vacation this year. We have
or eating out tonight.
Or eating out tonight.
We're going to cook in
right.
Tonight.
With all within reason. We're not going to live this lavish life. We're going to still enjoy. We don't have to live so lavishly that then, later in the future, I've spent all this money and didn't save for you. And now I need you to help me. Anyway, all these things.
Exactly.
We just, I guess, again, it comes back down to discipline within finances. And again, we're not going to have the second cookie or the fifth dessert for the week.
Yeah.
Just self-discipline and money, which I'd love for you in a little bit to give me some how-tos on that.
Okay.
But like you mentioned earlier, the foundation for everything I fully believe in life is emotional regulation. Okay. So talk to me about how emotional regulation is directly tied to finances, how it can be.
Well, some people, money is their emotional regulation. Some people, they try to compensate, with things going on and stress by, shopping and by spending. And that makes them feel better temporarily. You've heard of, what's it called? Retail therapy.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that is pretty toxic in our society right now. People saying, this is going to make you feel better, so go spend your money, in a way that is a little outside of what's healthy for you, and it'll make you feel better. And we all get that adrenaline rush when we buy something new, certainly. But I think what you really have to do is you have to buy into the emotional gratification of being able to pay cash and being able to do it right. And I'm one of those people, I'm motivated by saving and watching my money grow and feeling like I've really accomplished something.
Right.
Even to the extent that it gets difficult to then spend it, like that trip, even though we had saved up for it, it was really hard writing that check because I felt like we had accomplished a lot and we had sacrificed a lot to get to that point.
Right.
So I think it's important for people to set their emotions aside when it comes to money and really try to look logically.
Yeah.
When they're budgeting, when they're looking at those day-to-day purchases, even when you're in the grocery store, right? And you're thinking, I'm so hungry. That's when we tend to spend the most.
It's true.
Right? We buy everything instead of logically thinking after we eat is when we'll go shopping or after, we've had a meal. I don't know. I think grocery pickup is one of the greatest things to happen to my budget. It is. Kids don't have to go in the store.
No, they don't. I love that. And I always said that as soon as I started doing grocery ordering online, this is a quick tip that we can sidebar really quick. As soon as I started ordering my groceries online, right, I wasn't grabbing those extra, that's BOGO. That's on sale. Let me just pick that up really quick. And again, like I think essentially, or especially, for someone who, and you can correct me because you're the expert here, but for someone who has a really tight financial situation, you're like, I really can't cut anything else out of my budget. I encourage you to really look at your grocery budget because you can cut there way more than you realize.
Yes.
That's how I got myself into a house years ago because there was no wiggle room in my budget. So I thought, and I started like doing the grocery, ordering online and I was meal planning to a T based off of what was on sale, and it adds up.
Yes.
So think about it. It adds up. And if you're not paying attention to it, it can go south so fast.
So easily.
So easily. Oh, that gets me all excited talking about.
Yeah.
Because people who feel trapped financially, it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
For so many different reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And like you said, when you can take the emotion out of it instead of the fear of, I don't have any money to spend.
Right.
You know, like making a budget actually gives you the freedom because I was telling someone it's like a playground, you know, at a school. If the playground is next to two really busy roads and those cars are flying by at crazy speeds, the kids are really going to huddle, you know, in the middle of the playground because there's fear with those cars being so close. And so when the school puts a fence around the playground, it changes nothing as far as the proximity of the cars and the danger of the speed. But now the kids have the freedom to play over the entire playground, even run up against the fence. And that's what a budget does for you. It says, okay, I am going to spend this much, not I can only spend this much, but I am going to spend this much. It changes the emotion behind it. It changes your mindset. And it gives you a sense of prosperity rather than poverty.
Well, and essentially, one, that is a boundary, right? That fence is a boundary. So budget is a boundary. And it also, you know, you have to have self-discipline to do that. But I think oftentimes we feel like we have the control when we can just spend whatever we want on whatever we want. But actually, control typically isn't like a great thing to, you know, strive for. But we have more control when we're actually doing the budget and knowing where our money is going and things like that. Yeah.
I agree. I think the emotions of people around us, you know, can be a huge influence. And I see this a lot with women specifically and investing. Okay. Because a lot of women feel so intimidated by investing because they were never taught, like you said, in school. And the emotions of the news and the media and even
ups and downs.
Yeah, the person in the cubicle next to them who may know even less than they do, but they start getting emotional about what's happening in the market. And people make decisions that can be very unhealthy for their finances rather than, you know, figuring out, okay, is this a situation where I need to react or is this a situation where I need to let logic and information take over? So.
You know, that is such a beautiful thing. And I wrote this down on this page. Yes. So I wrote, you mentioned removing the emotion from your finances and compartmentalizing, which both of those things, kind of similar, are pretty unnatural for women.
Yes.
You know, we are more emotionally led. We are more emotional creatures. For myself, I'm a very emotional creature and woman. And so it's very unnatural for me to compartmentalize, to remove emotion from something. But I have really, again, which is why I talk about what I talk about, really found that doing that, growing that muscle, learning that skill of learning how to emotionally regulate, get back to a solid baseline, asking myself, okay, is this needing a reaction from me right now or no?
Yeah.
Then what kind of reaction, etc. Like all of those things. It's really unnatural for women, but it's better that we frame that as it's just self-discipline.
Yes.
It's not that we have to, you're not asking women to become men in that situation.
No,
you're just
not at
asking
all.
them to come at it from a different angle. And that finances just aren't an emotional thing. Not that we can't be emotional, but that money just can't be, I guess, controlled by emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Governed by emotions is better.
Exactly.
Way to say it.
Yeah. That's where the education takes place.
Yeah.
Because the more educated you are on a topic, the less likely you are to let your emotions take over or react in a certain way because you understand it.
Absolutely.
You have the ownership of it. You say, oh, okay, well, actually, I'm looking long-term,
Yeah.
or
Absolutely.
I've got that emergency fund, so this isn't a problem.
Yes.
Like I love telling people that, and it's so funny to hear it from a financial professional, but I say a lot, it's just money.
It's just money.
It is not worth your relationships.
Nope.
It's not worth your health and your stress.
Yeah.
It's not worth your children. It's not worth your life. It's just money. So figure it out.
Yeah.
Just figure
Have
it out.
you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes.
I think you have. Okay.
Yes.
And I
So
think
good.
one of his, if I'm not mistaken, main topics is that money's this made up thing. I think that comes from him, isn't it? That it's just like
so
this,
funny.
not this real thing. Have you heard that from him?
It's a social construct.
It is.
We just figured it out, evolved it. Yeah.
Right. It's just, so it's very interesting when you kind of change your perspective on money. You're like, oh yeah, like it doesn't need to ruin my relationships.
Right.
It doesn't need to ruin my life. Obviously we have to have it with how our society has been
Kind of
built.
as important as oxygen.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to rule us.
Right.
Another thing that I have learned to do, in my finances, in health and fitness, et cetera, I've even been teaching my kids this recently, is saying, I can wait. I can wait. I don't want to wait, but I can wait. I mean, I think yesterday my kids got in the car and my daughter had a piece of candy she got from school and my son's losing his mind because he didn't get candy and it's not fair. And I'm like, baby doll, it's not one for one. Like, get out your gratitude journal, all those things. But I literally have them say, I say, baby, repeat after me. I can wait. I can wait.
Yes.
And I say, but I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait, but I can wait. I can wait. Same thing with that house, right? A house, this is even true for myself right now. I've hit some financial goals that I had the past couple years. And now my financial goals seem so lofty. So give me some advice after this.
Yeah.
If you can. But my financial goals currently are so lofty that I'm like, the steps to get there are like not exciting and not fun. So you know what? I'm supposed to be saving towards X, but you know what? Instead, I'm just going to spend today because I don't want to wait. I don't want to put in that sacrifice today of not getting we're going to do that little weekend trip, even though I should be tucking this money away for that lofty goal. So perhaps finding the long-term financial discipline.
Yeah.
If you can speak to that.
Yeah. So there's two parts to that.
Okay.
Because
it's a big question.
Well, because one, we are, like you were saying, trying to grow that muscle, right? We're trying to exercise that muscle and learn the patience and the delayed gratification. But at the same time, we're trying to teach that to our children.
Yeah.
And it's hard to teach something that you are yourself working on, right?
That's true.
And so I think that's great that you're telling them to say the exact same things you're telling yourself.
Absolutely.
And and you're like, we're in this together, guys. We're learning this together. And I was going somewhere with that.
Oh no.
And I know. 40-year-old brain.
It happens.
Yeah.
No, the lofty financial goals that I have right now seem maybe not worth the discipline that is required, but I'm sometimes having a hard time, which, it's the same thing when you're on a nutritional journey.
Oh,
and
big
you're
time.
like,
Big time.
I'm supposed to not be eating a whole box of chocolates, but that's what I want to do right now.
Right.
And losing 20 pounds seems like such a far off goal that forget it all. Today, this is what I'm going to do. Same thing with treat yourself.
Yes.
Oh, I've been working so hard. So I guess finding the stamina and the financial aspect of our lives, and maybe that's just having long-term and short-term goals.
So that's huge.
Okay.
That's huge because you can only go so long without taking a breath, right?
That's true.
On a diet change, you can only go so long without breathing for just a minute, without smelling something and taking a bite. Yeah. We've tried to start something and I started it personally, mainly because Amazon is just so, it is such a big temptation, right? It is so easy. It's right there on your phone. Anytime you think of anything, you just click it and it shows up at your door. It's so painless. And so we started trying something that's called, we only have certain spending days. We called it a spending fast, right?
Yeah.
We only have certain spending days in the house, and it helps me to be able to almost take the blame off of me saying no to my kids and blaming our spending days. Like my kids will say, oh, we really want to go, get a Happy Meal today, or we really want to, go look at this toy, or we really want to go, spend this money. And I say, is it a spending day? And so teaching them, okay, there are days when we can.
Yeah.
There are days when we can't.
Yeah.
And if we really want this thing, if it turns out it's more than just a 5-second, impulse buy,
Right.
then maybe it will still be around by the time it's a spending day. And so I find that helps me. If I'm able to put things off until a spending day, I actually talk myself out of some things.
Absolutely.
But I really figure out what's important.
Absolutely. Because
and I can track it.
It's not that impulse. You're fighting the impulse. And again, it's like, I've said this on this podcast before. I've said this so many times in my life. I have changed so many. I've had so much transformation in my life by saying this phrase, but I always say, do today what your future self will thank you for. And that is having that boundary of, we're not spending today. Maybe tomorrow, it's a spending day tomorrow, but still it's a maybe.
Yeah.
And I did this too when I became a single mom, was living super tight financially. I knew I wanted to pay off some debt. I knew I wanted to get in a house. I was living with my parents and my 2 babies at the time. And I was like, okay, this is what's required of me right now to make some sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I would think, oh, I want to, go to dinner with a girlfriend this weekend. I want a new outfit. I don't actually need that.
Right.
Like I honestly think all of us in America don't actually need to go shopping for probably a couple years.
I think we're doing just
I think we're doing
look
just
at the
fine.
closet.
Oh my goodness. It's true. But right, even that, like, oh, I need something new. It's all this like made up thing. So when you can stick to those core values, again, you've given some great tips already with the spending days and things, but also, mentioning like, I can wait, having that self-discipline, but also knowing like you already have all that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, I think what I see is it comes down to, I would say contentment, but also confidence, because we get so caught up in the comparison game.
Yes.
Whether it's health-wise, how we look, how we feel, whether it's financial, what are we spending, having, the new things. We compare so much.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of that, especially for me personally, just being completely honest, it's because my confidence is lacking in that moment, in way too many moments. And I feel like as I'm comparing, man, that would make me feel better. It would make me more even with everybody else and what they're doing. But we were not made to be the same as everybody else.
Nope.
We were made to stand out. Yeah. And I think confidence in knowing I'm making the right financial decisions wears so much better than a brand new outfit.
Absolutely.
Would you agree that that a woman who walks in, you may not notice her outfit, but you will notice how confident she is.
You're going to notice her.
Content.
Absolutely.
She is not needing.
No.
She is complete.
Absolutely.
And that, I just think that wears better than anything you could buy and put on. And I want that.
Yeah.
That joy.
That is so rich, what you just gave there. That's so rich. And I'm going to tie that back to our pasts with working in the theme parks, right? Because we wore the tiaras and the glittery, gorgeous ball gowns and the glass slippers. Like we did it all. We danced on the castle stage. But if your castle underneath is crumbling, if your ball gown was put on a credit card, like it just doesn't wear the same way.
Right.
You want to be able to put that on and dance in it with freedom instead of chains on the other side.
Big time.
One of my friends told me a while ago, you never know someone else's financial situation. Yep. So if you focus on that, the comparison is just eliminated unless you're literally choosing comparison, which sometimes our brain wants to. It's hard to stop that.
That is a thing that's hard.
It's
very hard.
Yeah, but you never know someone's financial situation. So when you're saying, oh, wow, look, they went on this trip and I can't go. Well, you might have way more money in the bank.
Right.
They might have had passed down to them 3 different generations and family people who who gave them that financial blessing.
Right.
Like, so that's maybe a value you can then say, okay, I want that for my kids. I want that for myself, etc. But you never know someone else's financial situation. So comparison is just completely irrelevant.
Yeah. In my experience, I've seen almost the nicer it looks on the outside, the more credit card and debt is on the inside. And this is obviously not for everybody.
It's not for everybody,
but I sat down with thousands of families.
Yes.
And so many times they are, finances are very personal. And so they're hesitant to let you in. But when you come in from a humble standpoint of education, I've seen so many families just cry or say, we were praying for an answer because this is actually what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I've had friends say, my husband and I just fight about money all the time.
Yeah.
Can you fix that? I don't want to walk on eggshells around my own household anymore.
Yeah.
People say I was in my closet this morning just praying for an answer, praying for help, because they are trying to live a certain lifestyle and it comes with the debt and the stress and the upkeep.
It's true.
And that's a burden we were never meant to carry.
No.
At all. We were meant to be complete in our relationships, in our faith.
Yeah.
And outside of those things is all extraneous.
And maybe you can, that reminds me of, I lost my train of thought there, but if you can talk a little bit about relinquishing that, I guess, gluttonous behavior, or how to diminish your desire for tangible things. So how can we be less consumers and more savers?
A lot of it, for me, is putting the phone down. Because when I focus on my kids and I'm focused on people, I'm not thinking about what I'm lacking. I'm thinking about what I can give to them, how I can serve them. I don't know if you've noticed, but my nail artist did my fingernails yesterday. She's very exclusive, right? But when I'm with her, I'm too busy giving to her and serving her than, thinking about what I need and trying to consume. Yeah. And so it's the same, when you're discontent in any area, if you can focus on someone else and meeting their needs, it really shifts your mindset. It really helps you put things in perspective. Yeah. Because I would much rather spend time with my daughter than spend time shopping for something.
Absolutely.
I'd much rather use that money for her and her gorgeous fingernail paint, or whatever, than buying myself something.
It's true.
So that's one trick I find, is if you can shift your mindset from things to people. Again, that human aspect, right? That can help turn your whole perspective around.
Well, I'm being present and not without, I know probably you can say the same thing. Most women and moms can say the same thing. Like when I'm with my children, sometimes I'm not with them.
Right.
Like my mind is elsewhere, thinking about the task list and what I don't have. And, I wish I wasn't here right now. This is a really hard afternoon. I wish I was out away doing something. I wish I was out at the spa. I just need some relief. But when we think about that from the standpoint of, I wrote it down here, and you mentioned it earlier, where that thing, so in this instance, what we're talking about, it could be some type of purchase. So when we're thinking about that bag we don't have, that trip we can't go on, that, something outside of ourselves, when we're thinking about that thing outside of ourselves that we don't have, it takes away from everything. Yeah. And again, we're missing the richest thing, which is being present and what's right in front of us. Yes. And, that requires self-discipline in so many areas. Yes. But when we think about, and you brought this to my attention, right? I'm very aware that I had an eating disorder in the past and that food became a hit for me. I needed a fix. I kind of more recently, I overcame that maybe 10 years ago now, and I was trapped in it. I never, ever thought I'd get out of that. But I realized just maybe about a year ago, wow, that is actually an addiction. I didn't realize. But when I looked at my behaviors, I was like, wow, those are addictive behaviors. So, and I've known other people in my life who have had different addictions also. And so when you think about food, money, right? Of course, alcohol is a big one. But when you think about spending money as a hit, you mentioned that in the very beginning of this is a form of emotional regulation. Oh my gosh. Then when you realize what you're doing, and that there is probably a better way.
Yes.
You won't, wreck your financial situation. I always talk about, girls do shopping sprees at Target when they're not feeling great. I'm like, but that's going to make you miserable in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And you're going to be miserable in 5 years. When you have all this credit card debt for the clothes that still aren't in style and were never good quality to begin with on day one, like,
yes. Yeah. Getting excited about what that money can do for you outside of just more stuff.
Yeah.
And for us as women, more stuff to wash.
Yeah.
More laundry to do, more things to find out. Like right now we're having a party for my son this weekend. You're coming, I know.
Yes, I am.
And so we're cleaning the house.
Yeah.
And every time we clean the house, in this extreme kind of way, I find myself saying, why do we have so much stuff? Why do we need so much stuff? And we don't.
We don't. We literally
do not. Nope. And so that temporary hit that buying stuff brings us is followed by so much stress, because then we have to house the stuff. We have to clean the stuff. We have to put it somewhere. We have to maintain the stuff.
It's true.
And, investment accounts and retirement accounts really don't require that much washing or maintaining. But
I don't like laundry.
Oh my goodness. I try to, as
really
little
don't.
as possible, right? If it doesn't smell bad, can you wear it again,
Can
please?
you wear it again? Could we push this one more day?
Yes, yeah. Don't know if we want to put that out there for everyone to hear, but just trying to think, okay, what's going to make me happy long term?
Absolutely. Again, that's self-discipline. Like I am so grateful to myself. I actually wrote this down yesterday. I was chatting with a girlfriend. We kind of keep in touch on our nutrition goals.
Yeah.
And she and I were roommates in college. I was my heaviest, well, except for when I had a baby, I was my heaviest in college. And I am now, quickly doing the math, I think 40 pounds less, which is insane.
Wow. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
But that's insane. But I'm like, thank you, self.
Yes.
Thank you, self, that back then you did the hard work.
Yes.
Because I'm not huffing and puffing. I was up the stairs today to
it
get
was
in
3
here.
flights of stairs.
Yeah,
Come on.
Thank you. But I'm not huffing and puffing when I'm out playing soccer with my kids. I am able to crawl on the floor with them and, oh, baby, like, mommy's really out of breath, or, oh, baby, I'm not going to sit on the floor because mommy's back. No, I'm not going to say that.
Yes.
So I'm so grateful to myself. Again, speaking about finances, because that's what you are here for, ma'am. I'm so grateful to myself that, 5 years ago now, I paid off all my debt, bought a house, et cetera, set up, some accounts for myself. Yep. And I'm so grateful to me now. Thank you, self. Thank you.
Yes. Because over time you can see the difference it makes.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. And I recently have started, really taking care of my health, nutritionally and exercising. Yeah. And my kids have picked up on it and they love it. Like my little girl, she's 3. She wants to come do my exercises with me. It. Yeah. And she's over there and it's kind of a pain. She gets in the way. She's distracting me, but it's so precious that she is going to grow up with that discipline already. Like,
absolutely.
Of course we exercise.
Absolutely.
That's what we do. Of course we take vitamins. Of course we do. Like my sons are so funny about wanting to build their muscles. They say they want bumps on their arms because they see that and they see the confidence it gives men who are strong and healthy. And that's what they want.
Absolutely.
It's not even necessarily, like we said earlier, about the physique.
No.
It's about the confidence. Like you're saying, I can lift that suitcase for you, honey. Yes, I can get that toy down. I can play.
Yes.
Because we're putting ourselves in those situations.
Well, you're saying surpassing the thing, right? Surpassing the material thing. Like it's better to have the confidence. Surpassing the thing that's better than having that piece of cake at the party and that second drink, like surpassing that current feel good thing is something that's far greater and feels so much better, which is the confidence. Yeah. And that, again, you can't buy that. And I love that we're talking about all this, which we didn't even mean to, but it just attests to the fact that all these 5 pillars of being a woman of character are also integrated. Like they're all, you have to, again, like I always say, you can't be 100% at all these things all the time, but you have to be aware.
Yes.
But it's like this cycle, or they piggyback off of each other is probably the best way to say it.
Yes.
Because again, when you feel better, you spend better. When you spend better, you are better in your relationships. When you're better in your relationships, you know, all the things. It's so piggybacking, and it's also vital and important. And again, it's supposed to build you up as an amazing woman of character who can be generous in all ways, in relationship, in finances, in nurture. I mean, so many things. So
no, you've really singled out 5 things that you're right. They're so interwoven, but they each need specific attention.
They do.
You can't lack in one of them. So I really appreciate what you've highlighted on your platform and what you've shown we need to focus on. You've simplified it, you know, to a doable degree. And I think that's really important.
Well, thank you for that.
We need simplification. We've got so much going on.
Absolutely.
Right? Teach us what we need to know
Yeah.
and give us a simple plan to execute. And we can do it.
Absolutely.
And like I think discipline in your time is so important because that's what everything
tough.
hinges on.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing you can't make more of. No. You can always make more money, right? You can always burn more calories, I guess, but you cannot make more time.
That's true.
And so really finding a place for those important things that you have to take care of.
Yeah.
You know, that's like you were saying, a time boundary thing.
Yeah. And I appreciate you highlighting that because that's one thing I'm passionate about. I've done so much personal development work. And oftentimes I find, you know, people I follow, workshops I've gone to, seminars, events, retreats, things I've done, oftentimes are these really great, oh, wow, that was such a great message. I really needed to hear that. They're right. This is true. Okay, that's all good and fine. But how? Like, what's the how to? So like you said, thank you so much. Like, that's why I've tried to identify, hey, if you are struggling, these are 5 great areas of your life that you really need to fine tune. Take a look at them. What's the story? Are we emotionally regulated? What's going on? Like, this is a good place to start. And then everything else builds from there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, give me a couple more tips on perhaps someone who's like, okay, I have no clue what I'm doing financially. I'm just getting started, or, you know, maybe they're not. Just give me some quick little either tips or steps that you'd have for advice in the financial realm.
Yeah. The first step is always having an honest picture of where you are currently. And sometimes that's the most painful because we really ostrich ourselves by putting our head in the sand and saying, maybe if I just hide from these credit card bills, or maybe if I just ignore the budget for a little bit, maybe it'll go away, right? Like you said, maybe I'll get lucky and things will just work themselves out.
I know.
And it rarely actually happens. So I think taking an honest look at where are we today? And if you're in a relationship with someone where you are codependent on your funds, right? Like in a marriage where, you know, you have a joint account and you are both using that same money, it's important to bring that person into that conversation because you can't carry the burden yourself. And I know in relationships, there tends to be one person who's really kind of in charge of the finances, but it's so important to be on the same page with both of you. Even if, like my husband, he never checks the account. He never looks at anything. But it's so important for us to know what's going on together so that we don't feel like we don't have permission to spend or do this. We need to be in on our goals together and be able to execute together.
Absolutely.
Like I remember early in our marriage, he was eating out with his buddies for lunch almost every day. And we kind of got into a little thing about it. I don't like to say fight because we really try not to fight. We try to discuss, right? We try to, like you say, take the emotion out of it. Let's talk about this. But he was like, what's wrong? And I said, we don't have the money to eat out this much. And he was like, well, I never check the account. I leave that to you. And I said, that's why I'm telling you. And so being able to look at those goals together with your partner and make those decisions together. I think that's the first step is, okay, let's get on the same page. Let's look at where we're at right now. And then forecasting where you want to be, even if it's next week. Even if, okay, this week we spent this much at the grocery store. How much do we want to spend next week? Because sometimes it's easier to take those little bite-sized chunks. You know, what do we want to change for next week instead of thinking next year? what's a small baby step that you can take? Obviously, that's something I help families do all day, every day.
Yes,
and
yes.
I don't charge to put plans together and consult. So there's no barrier to entry,
Right.
really. And I would recommend getting professional help, you know,
Yes.
having someone walk through those goals with you.
Absolutely.
And say, okay, well, here are some practical steps you can take.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to pay off this debt, first we got to know where we're starting.
Exactly.
And now we have to say, okay, well, when do we want to be out of debt? How can we factor this in, you know, using software, using extra money, you know, and like you were saying with your 5 pillars, how they all fit together. A lot of people want to start off with their pain point, which tends to be debt.
Yeah.
And they don't realize some of the most important things to do for yourself financially are not pay off your debt.
Right.
It's building an emergency fund.
Right.
And then preparing for the unknown.
Right.
Preparing for sudden disasters.
Yes.
I've seen several GoFundMes on
Yeah.
Facebook recently because young people with families passed
Yeah.
and they had no life insurance.
Right.
And that's something people really don't talk about.
No.
And it's not fun to talk about.
No.
But it's also not fun to have to do a GoFundMe when something like that happens and suddenly the household
What
has
do we do?
lost an income.
Exactly.
Yes. And there are kids and there are bills. And
Yes.
the mortgage company isn't going to say, hey, we heard what happened. Don't worry about paying this month. They may say they're sorry, but are we still going to get our mortgage
Right.
payment on the first?
Yes.
So even practical things like that, before you pay off your debt, there are some steps you need to take to make sure you're adulting. You're doing this in the right priority order.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good to know where you are.
Yep.
It's good to invite professional help to plan out your plan. But then, you just execute and you celebrate the small victories. Maybe
Absolutely.
not with a big steak dinner,
Right.
but you can celebrate
Every
with-
time.
Right, right. But definitely you want to celebrate, man, we're making progress.
Absolutely.
We're doing this.
Build in those essentially rewards. You know, I remember when I, which I want to go back to the mortgage thing you just said, but I remember I had like my first financial goal. I was like, I'm going to buy like my first like really nice purse for myself. Like when I get debt free, right? So these little incentives that wasn't going to make me go into debt. Like I had the cash for it. It wasn't this outrageous, like, okay, I paid off all my debt. Now I'm going to go into debt for the next thing. Like that's not what we're doing here.
Right.
But what you just said was that essentially, right, the mortgage company has taken the emotion out of their financials. So we have to do the same because when something happened, hey, okay, I understand something happened to you. So sorry. But so when are you sending the check? Like you just said. So again, that's a good reminder that it's just something we have to do. I think, again, you've talked a lot about the fence on the playground, which is the budget and a boundary for our finances. We have to look at that from a place of discipline and building for the future as opposed to confinement.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of us are like, but I want that thing, but I want to go out to lunch with my friends. Why can't I want that? No, baby, it's not about that. Like you're looking at it all wrong. It's so that you can do everything you want to do in the future and more. And you just have to make a little sacrifice today.
Yeah. Well, I find myself motivated by feeling when I've kind of cheated the system, if that makes sense. Like you were saying, you know, I want to eat out with my friends. Well, I've noticed eating out tends to actually be a lot more food than I need.
That's
so
true.
even tying in finances and nutrition, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more food than I need. It's a heck of a lot more sodium than I need.
Yeah.
And it also is expensive. And so when I do want to go with my friends and enjoy that social time, a lot of times I'll get a water.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still there and I'm able to participate in the conversation and the memories, but I'm not spending money.
No.
I don't necessarily need all those calories.
No.
I'm going to get a water, but I'm also saving money. And I know I'm weird, but that brings me joy when I'm like, hey, I got what I wanted, but I was able to do it without having to pay. And I'm not going to regret eating all of those calories later and beating myself up that I need to, burn them off or be extra tight at dinner. You know, I'm not in my head about all the games that I'm going to have to play.
No.
I was able to figure it out.
And you mentioned like, in a silly way, like that's weird. No, it's the first thing that you said, which is beating the system because you're refusing to be a part of the system who is not prepared for retirement, who's drowning in debt, who can't pay for anything cash, who can't function when there's an emergency, can't function when something out of the blue happens. No, you are beating the system by having this confidence and discipline up front, which is so difficult, but it always has such a more fulfilling reward on the backside.
Yes.
Yeah. I think before we wrap up a little bit, if you want to add anything, but I know that you also, speak to all different audiences on finances, and you've even spoken in schools to kids on this topic, which is so important for them and the parents.
So important.
Yeah. But is there anything else you wanted to add about finances?
No, I think making a plan is so important.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not just going to magically come together.
No.
And so that's the main thing I want people to know is please make a plan.
Yeah.
And maintain that plan, certainly.
Stick to it, yeah.
But talking to someone, even talking to me and putting a plan together is so important. And there's no obligation, there's no judgment.
Right.
But you can't reach your goals if you don't know where you're starting from.
Right.
Just like I could never, find out how to get to your house if I don't know where I'm starting from.
A roadmap.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got to plug it into the GPS.
Yes.
And so, which I can get to your house now without a GPS because we've been there so often.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of doing a plan.
Yeah.
Is eventually down the road, you've got your legs under you and you know what you're doing and it's not a struggle anymore.
No.
So people need a plan.
They do.
And they need to execute the plan.
Stick to it.
Yeah. And then it's one less thing to worry about. You're not thinking, oh my gosh, if something happens to my husband, what am I going to do financially? No, we took care of that.
Yeah.
If something happens to the car, how am I going to pay for a new transmission? No, we took care of that, right? You save your worry for things that money can't take care of. If money can fix it, it's not a problem. Just make sure you have the money, right? Your air conditioner goes out.
Because then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Make sure you have the money to take care of it. You save your worry and your prayers for things that money can't fix.
I've heard this phrase oftentimes from many different people, but it's always something, right? When the car doesn't start or when the fridge breaks or the power goes out. When something happens like that, it's that phrase, it's always something. It literally is. It is always something.
Yeah,
you're right. Because that's life. And so again, you're furthermore just proving that be prepared for that so that you don't have that feeling of, it's always something. You're like, that happened today. No problem.
No problem.
My problem is literally not a problem because I have the self-discipline up front.
Yes.
I think one last thing I want to point out is a lot of times people are, like you said earlier, so embarrassed. They don't want to look behind the curtain. God forbid. Then they also want to show someone else what's behind the curtain financially. Right. But I want to remind people that for someone like you, looking at other people's finances is so normal. And so you're not surprised, disappointed, judgmental about someone else's financial situation.
Right.
Because it's just like a doctor, they see it all the time. So your issue that you're maybe like, I'm so embarrassed about, they see that all the time.
Yeah.
So, right. Same thing with me, someone who's never been a performer before. It's my job to teach them how to be a performer. That's one thing that I do. So it's your job as a financial professional to teach people how to do money.
Yes.
So just a good reminder as like a bumper here of removing that embarrassment perhaps of your finances, or even the embarrassment that maybe you have plenty of money, but you still don't know what to do with it. Right. Like just removing any of that, because that is, you're unfazed by that.
Yes.
It's just your profession and it's business.
Yes. So. Yes. And just like that doctor analogy, you can't get better if you don't address the problem. No. And so I love it when people are opening up and being transparent, because that's when we can do something. Yeah. And I tell them, like, we'll be doing a debt plan and they'll be telling me their debts. And I'm like, okay, what's your next one? What else? Yeah. And they get this look in their eyes of dread. And I say, no. Sometimes the more you have, the faster I can get you out. Let's look. What else? Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. Let's put it in here. Let's get an honest picture, because then we can project. This is your debt freedom date. Right. That freedom is what you're going for. Right. That financial freedom where you don't have to go to a job. You get to live off your investments. That's freedom. Nobody's got their thumb on you. Nope. So, just want us to live free, ladies. That's what I want.
Absolutely. Me too. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I'm excited for your son's birthday on Sunday.
It's going to be a
fun
fun
kids
party.
love your kids.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing life with me.
Absolutely. Love you so much, girl.